There's a kind of mind that doesn't speak. It studies you. You don't see it. You feel it. And by the time you realize it's been in the room, it already knows how you'll react before you do. That's not charm. That's not intellect. That's dark strategy. The type of intelligence no one teaches because no one wants you to have it. This isn't school smart. This isn't emotional intelligence. It's something colder, quieter, and far more dangerous. You've met someone like this, the person who never raises their voice, never argues, but somehow always wins. The one who blends in, yet people bend around them like gravity. They don't show power. They are power. Their silence has weight. Their presence feels calculated. They're not trying to be liked. They're reading the room like a chessboard. And if you've ever felt like you weren't meant to be soft, that you see too much, feel too little, and think too far ahead, this video was made for you. Dark intelligence begins where most people stop paying attention. It doesn't announce itself. It gathers. It dissects. It watches the way people cling to status, how they lie to protect their image, how they laugh just a little too hard when they're insecure. At first, you think you're just being quiet, but really you're calibrating. You start hearing what people don't say. You catch the twitch in their eye when they're hiding something. You feel the shift in tone when someone's testing you. You notice patterns. Who talks the most in meetings without saying anything? Who's always performing strength while secretly spiraling? You become the invisible threat, the storm they never predicted, because while everyone else is trying to be liked, you're learning how people function. You're clocking insecurities, leverage points, blind spots. You're not reacting. You're positioning. No panic, no drama, just precision. This intelligence doesn't operate in classrooms. It doesn't crave applause. It thrives where others are too loud to listen. And eventually, something inside you changes. You stop needing to be understood. You stop correcting people who misread you. Let them. Their assumptions are your camouflage. They think you're harmless until they realize you've known their next 3 moves for months. You don't ask for power. You absorb it through stillness. Machiavelli understood this. Not genius in the spotlight, genius in the shadows. The kind that doesn't fight for control because it's already in control. You ever wonder why some people get nervous around you even when you haven't done anything? That's the signal. They're sensing your silence isn't empty. It's watching. It's calculating. It's surgical. Here's the truth. People are easy to read when they believe they're safe. So you make them feel safe. You nod, you smile, you agree. And all the while you're collecting intel. What makes them tick? What scares them? What they'll sacrifice to be accepted? Then you wait. And when it's time to act, you don't swing wild. You strike with the precision of someone who's been studying. That's dark intelligence. It's not about being colder than everyone. It's about being clearer. You start seeing people as systems, not good or bad, just predictable, fragile, reactive. Someone flirts too hard? You read the insecurity. Someone brags nonstop? You clock the need for validation. You stop falling for performances and start decoding motives. And the moment you stop taking people at face value is the moment you gain an edge most never get. It's the shift from being emotional to being tactical. From why did they do that to of course they did that. From I can't believe it to I saw it coming weeks ago. And the world, with all its chaos and noise, starts to make terrifying sense. Here's what they don't teach you. Truth doesn't win. Perception does. Control perception, and you control reality. That's why dangerously intelligent people don't fight to be right. They position to win. They don't correct people. They let people stay wrong. Why? Because false confidence makes people sloppy, and sloppy people are easy to move. You use your silence to unnerve. You use your presence to unsettle. You enter a room, and even without a word, the energy shifts. You're not trying to be mysterious. You are mystery because unpredictability is leverage. You never show the full hand. You let people think they have you figured out. You give them just enough of a pattern to let their guard down. Then when they think you're one step behind, they realize you built the map they're walking on. People ask, is this manipulation? No, it's survival with precision, because while everyone else is out here bleeding emotion, giving loyalty to people who haven't earned it, you're choosing who even gets access to you. You move like a ghost, not because you're cold, but because you've burned too much time in rooms that didn't deserve your fire. You stop chasing closure. You stop arguing your worth. You stop handing out second chances like candy. Instead, you do the most powerful thing a person can do in a manipulative world. You vanish without noise, and your absence hits louder than any speech. That's when people realize the difference. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't beg. You didn't even respond. And yet somehow they can't stop thinking about you. That's presence. That's power. You've evolved. You're no longer the emotional version of yourself that needed to be seen, liked, understood. Now you choose visibility. You control attention. You make people earn your awareness. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you walked away from something without explaining yourself? Without defending your decisions? Without giving someone the emotional satisfaction of watching you bleed? And more importantly, how did it feel? Because when you realize that silence is sometimes the loudest thing you can do, you stop fearing distance. You start weaponizing it. You start using absence as pressure, not out of pettiness, but because you understand what most people never will. You don't have to fight for respect when you know how to remove access. Disrespect is not something you confront. It's something you disqualify. No threats, no explanations, just a quiet shift in proximity. And suddenly they feel it, the emptiness you left behind. They thought you were passive. They mistook your silence for weakness. But silence, when used correctly, is dominance with a straight face. You don't chase validation anymore. You don't argue for your place. You decide who gets to be in your space. You're no longer emotionally reactive. You're logically untouchable. And in that space, you grow even sharper. You start to play the long game. People panic when they're unsure of where they stand with you. That uncertainty becomes a leash. You never had to pull it. They tighten it themselves. Let them talk. Let them over-explain. Let them reveal what they're trying to hide. You're not just listening for words, you're tracking patterns. You're mapping insecurity in real time. You're learning what makes them bend. So if you ever need to apply pressure, you already know exactly where to press. This isn't manipulation, it's mastery. Now let's get into the real. How do you use this day to day without people knowing you're 10 steps ahead? Control conversations, not by dominating them, but by directing their flow. Ask surgical questions that sound casual but force introspection. Why do you think that made you so upset? What made you react that way? These aren't innocent. These are probes. While they answer, they expose emotional gaps. Let them speak. Let them spiral. You don't need to win the argument. You win the blueprint. Next, use silence as social gravity. Most people are so uncomfortable with it, they'll rush to fill it with their insecurities. Don't interrupt. Let the silence stretch until they start telling on themselves. You don't need confrontation to create fear. All it takes is stillness, measured eye contact, a delayed reply. Let them squirm under the pressure of your non-response. Now watch how people change their tone. Another power play, mirror and redirect. Match someone's emotional energy, then steer it. If they're loud, get louder. Just for a second. then drop to calm. They'll follow. You hijack the rhythm and reset the power dynamic. Someone proud? Play humble. Let them feel superior. Then plant a subtle question that flips the ego into obedience. Have you ever considered, what if there's more going on than you thought? You're not arguing, you're guiding. People love feeling in control. Let them. Just make sure the map they're following, it's the one you drew. And when it's time to act clean. No emotion, no spectacle, just execution. Someone crossed a line? Don't post about it. Don't rant. Don't seek sympathy. Simply eliminate their access. Block, unfollow, delete, quiet exile, no goodbye. That silence will burn louder than any insult. Because you know now, emotional responses are expensive. They cost you clarity. They cost you positioning. And worst of all, they tell your opponent where to strike next. So stop giving people your emotional map. Instead, let them wander in the mystery of who you've become. Let them feel the emptiness they created. And wonder if you ever really needed them at all. And here's the wildest part. The more you evolve, the more people try to bring back the version of you they could predict. The emotional one, the forgiving one, the one who explained every decision and overextended for everyone's comfort. But that version, you buried it in silence. And now they're dealing with someone new, someone whose power doesn't come from volume, but from velocity. Fast mind, slow moves. They won't know what changed. They'll just know you're harder to reach, harder to read, and impossible to manipulate. Relationships, you see them for what they are. Alliances, data exchanges, strategic placements. Love doesn't blind you anymore. It sharpens you. You still feel, but your feelings are filtered through reason now. You can care about someone deeply and still walk away when your boundaries are tested. That's real strength, because anyone can love. Not everyone can walk. You're no longer seduced by closeness. You're seduced by consistency, by patterns, by emotional logic. If someone's unpredictable, it's not exciting. It's a risk profile. You log it, you study it, you prepare. You don't react to betrayal. You track the moment it started forming. You clock the first lie, the first crack in loyalty, and by the time they switch up, you've already withdrawn your trust. Quietly, cleanly, strategically. By the time they realize it, they're standing in front of a locked door they didn't even know you were holding. This is why they fear you. Not because you're cruel, but because you no longer bleed when poked. You've become surgical with your time, brutal with your focus, precise with your boundaries. And people sense it. They step lighter around you. They speak differently. Not because you said anything, but because your energy now holds consequences. This is what happens when you build a presence that doesn't ask for respect. It demands it silently. So what now? Now you evolve again, because the final level of dark intelligence isn't about control over others. It's control over yourself, over your impulses, over your habits, over your desire to explain, to correct, to prove. You become the kind of person who doesn't post their every move, who doesn't react in public, who doesn't need applause to know their value. You move in silence not for mystery, but for focus. You don't respond to every challenge. You let people reveal themselves through their own chaos. You just observe, adapt, and reposition. You've stopped trying to change people. You've started choosing better ones. That's what makes you unstoppable. By now, you've probably realized something deeper. The world rewards loudness, but it's quiet minds that build empires, that get in rooms where everyone else is too noisy to notice the leverage. So keep building that kind of mind, one that sees before others even sense, one that doesn't get tricked by appearances, one that chooses silence when others choose spectacle. Because real power is never advertised. It is felt, it is feared, and it is rare. Now let me ask you one last question, and don't answer it out loud. How much of yourself are you still showing just to be accepted? And what would happen if you stopped? That's your next move. If this spoke to something inside you, something you've always known was there but never had words for, then you're not alone. You're just early, ahead of the curve, dangerous in the making, so stay sharp. Because this was never just a video. This was a signal to the quiet ones, the sharp ones, the underestimated ones. Your silence is your edge. Your mind is your weapon, and they'll never see you coming.